Joe, when did you fall in love with hip-hop?
I didn't fall in love with hip-hop.
No?
No. Everyone in hip-hop looked like someone who beat me up in high school.
Mos Def looks like someone who beat you up in high school?
Actually, I was referring to Queen Latifah.
Well, I was a huge fan of hip-hop.
Were you?
Yeah, I love Billy Joel.
That's not hip-hop, George.
Sure it is. It's hip music that you hop to. Hip-hop.
Who told you that?
You did.
I could not have said that.
Why not?
Because we can't both be the whitest person on this podcast.
Man, you do not listen to our show.
Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast looks at old moves and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romacka. And today we're discussing Brown Sugar from 2002 and some historical context. First, podcasty stuff. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and on our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us, even the ones who quit their A&R gigs to start their own recording labels, and leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod. Now, Joe, take us back to 2002.
2002. I was 35, George was 21. And the number one rap song in America was Lose Yourself by Eminem.
You gotta lose yourself in the music the moment you own it. You better never let it go. I'm really sorry that I know the lyrics to that.
Yes, that's right. Music created by black people in the Bronx was being performed by a white boy from Missouri at a higher success rate. George, can black people have nothing without white folks bogarting it?
Okay, I understand what you mean. However, Eminem was not performing the music created by black people. He was performing in a style of music that was created by black people. In his defense, he was really good at writing lyrics. He wasn't copying, I mean, he was sampling, but everybody was sampling. Everybody was sampling. But in the larger scheme, no, Joe, no. Black people can't have anything of their own without white people bogarting it. Come on, why? What a silly question. It's the United States.
Okay. Well, as you say, to Eminem's credit, he was well aware of what this looked like, as did everyone else. American culture had changed enough that a white act doing quote-unquote black music was not something mainstream culture could pretend was not happening. This story is brought to us from New York Newsday. Headline, George.
Romancing the Throne. Is Eminem the new Elvis?
I will quote from the article, which, like always, is in the show notes. On his current album, The Eminem Show, he lays out his case. George, do the lyric.
Okay. No, I'm not the first king of controversy. I am the worst thing since Elvis Presley to do black music so selfishly and used it to get myself wealthy.
He raps in his hit, Without Me. In his manifesto, White America, he says,
look at my sales. Let's do the math. If I was black, I would have sold half.
And later in this piece, it says, Eminem is the new Elvis because, number one, he had the respect for black music that Elvis had, says Public Enemy frontman Chuck D. One thing I'll say about Eminem, he's very witty, very sharp, very much respectful of stepping on toes and black music. He'll take being called Elvis. He's smart, and Elvis was smart. Beyond everything, I think he's courteous and sympathetic to black music, and unfortunately, he's more sympathetic to black music than many black artists themselves. However, not everyone is sold on the idea. It's tempting to look at the similarities, says Murray Foreman, professor of communications and cultural studies at Northeastern University. But I don't see Eminem in that framework whatsoever. He is not opening the field or the industry to whites. He is not in some sort of vanguard. He is an original, and he has been given enough room to be the star that he is, helped by Dr. Dre's acceptance. But anyone who thinks he is on the same level as Elvis Presley is operating under a misunderstanding of Elvis's role and status. Foreman says the two are stars on different scales. While rap is wildly successful, it's not the music of an entire generation, he says. It may be the music of the entire black youth generation, but that does not match the across-the-board resonance Elvis and rock and roll had in the 50s. End quote. George, do you remember this controversy at all? That that some people thought Eminem was taking taking the music of the black man, or black people in general?
I mean, anybody with even a shred of racial awareness saw Eminem being up there, being Eminem, and was like, he's white. He's white. Why is he doing that? He's white.
So you're saying you didn't notice?
No, well,
unaware.
I had to note it. Like, you had to. You couldn't not notice. He's blindingly like, he's not just white. He's really fucking white. Like, he is. You can't shine your brights near him for blindness' sakes. White.
Any case, what the hell that was about? That Eminem was selling better than other black artists at the time, or he's selling better than black artists, not other black artists. He wasn't black.
Well, part of it was that white people who historically shied away from rap because it was black people doing it, and for whatever reasons they gave, it was racism. Well, not only did a lot of black people like Eminem's music, so did a lot of white people, partially because he was white and doing it. Mm-hmm. Also, though, and I cannot stress this enough, Eminem was an amazing fucking lyricist. Like, he did something different. Nobody that I'm aware of sounded like Eminem the way Eminem had a grasp of, like, internal rhyme schemes and shit. Mm-hmm. Now, again, my awareness is limited, but he made good shit. That's part of why he sold really well. But he also was able to sell that to white people also. So even good, black rappers who came up with good stuff, most of their audience was black people. He had a wider audience because he was white.
Okay. And where were you? Were you a big fan of his at the time, or?
I was not a fan of his until later, after I became an atheist.
Is that what did it for you?
No, that wasn't what did it for me, but that's what got me out of listening to Christian and country almost exclusively. So I had to sample what was out there. Like, I liked his stuff, but at the same time, I've been on this trajectory towards the wholesome, or what I see as the wholesome and the non-toxically masculine, and Eminem is not in that category.
Moving on, there were 3 deaths in 2002 involving major rap stars. One was Lisa Left Eye Lopez. This is also brought to us from New York Newsday. Headline, George.
Fans mourn death of TLC's Left Eye. Days after singer's fatal crash, many still in disbelief.
I will quote. Fans of Lopez, a member of the Grammy-winning trio TLC, who made headlines of both her music and her personal life, were still mourning yesterday, 2 days after her death in a car crash near Guajipe, Honduras. Lopez was trying to pass a car on the highway when a truck approached from the other lane, forcing her to veer sharply to the left, said John Cole, a police inspector in nearby La Ceiba. The Mitsubishi Montero she was driving struck 2 trees and flipped over several times. Cole said the seriousness of the accident indicated that Lopez was speeding, but he could not say exactly how fast she was driving. End quote.
Which speeding is what you do when you're trying to pass. Like, that's when you're kind of allowed to because you have to in order to pass.
Do you remember this at all?
No. Unfortunately, like, and that's sad because TLC put out good music, and a lot of it was towards the wholesome end of the spectrum that I ended up going.
I remember people being very shocked about it. I was not really a listener, as it's pretty clear to listeners, I'm not good at music. So I don't know what the hell is going on. But obviously these things would still seep through, even if I didn't follow it. And I remember people being shocked by her death. Also dying in a car crash was Houston, Texas rapper Big Mello. He had 3 albums under his belt and was set to release his 4th when he accidentally drove his car into a pillar. Had you ever heard of this guy?
Nope.
Yeah, neither did I. I don't know how big a name he was, but I was doing research and he's one of the people they mentioned who died that year was in rap. So, all right, there we go. Mm-hmm. But the biggest and most shocking death among rappers in 2002 was the murder of Jam Master Jay of Run DMC. You can read his Wikipedia page on the events around his death, but it's a whodunit that remains, at the time of this recording, unsolved. There is suspicion Jam Master Jay was killed because he owed a drug dealer some money, but that, as yet, has not been proven.
Also, this just seems weird, dude. Like, why, even if you're a drug dealer and they owe you money, if you kill them, you'll never get paid back.
Yeah, I don't think people think these things through.
That's why banks don't, like, you lay it on your car note, they don't come and kill you.
Mm-hmm. But what I want to focus on is what the man did in life, which is provided to us again by New York Newsday. Give me the headline, George.
Run DMC, Jam Master Jay, revolutionized rap genre.
I will quote, before Jam Master Jay came onto the scene, hip-hop was dismissed as a passing fad and urban novelty that would quickly burn itself out. Do you remember we actually did read someone was saying that? There was one of the earlier stories that we did for another movie that had rap in it. Mm-hmm. And some a-hole was like, it's just a fad. They're like, it's terrible stuff. Like,
there's always some prick saying that. Always. There is always somebody saying that about any new thing that comes out. And some amount of time, that prick is right. But when they're not, it's point and laugh at that prick time. Because boy, did they get it wrong.
Sure got it wrong here, yes. All right, back to the article. After Jam Master Jay and his pioneering pals Run DMC unleashed groundbreaking songs like Rockbox and Walk This Way, hip-hop suddenly busted through the entrance to the mainstream and headed straight to the suburbs, launching an unstoppable musical force. As one of rap's highest profile DJs, Jam Master Jay, whose real name was Jason Mizell, brought together rock and hip-hop to create a new soundscape for his rappers, Joe Run Simmons and Daryl DMC McDaniels.
Okay. Real quick, His real name was Jason Mizell. Is that in any way like the spark of the subculture within rap where you put Izzle after everything?
I'm going to say no. I don't know, but I'm going to guess that's incorrect.
Okay, I had to ask.
Well, listener, if you know, if that's the case, please, by all means, but please, don't be abusive. Like, you idiots. What are you talking about? Don't you know anything?
No, we don't. We are very clear about that. We sound like we know stuff. We don't.
All right, back to the article. The new sound paved the way for groups like the Beastie Boys, Rage Against the Machine, and even the updated version called rap metal, currently dominated by Linkin Park and Korn.
Wait a second. Did the Beastie Boys get any of the shit that Eminem got for being white rappers?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Because if it's got to be applied, evenly.
It's got to be equally.
Yeah. Can't let these guys through. Sabotage! And not, okay.
Back to the article. Run DMC is our Beatles, said Public Enemy rapper Chuck D. This is like John Lennon getting shot. Though Run DMC never reached Beatlesque sales levels, they faced challenges the Fab Four didn't. The Hollis Trio's popularity forced MTV to change its policies and air its video for Walk This Way, which is now the second most played video of all time at the channel. Okay,
but what policy was that? I am dying to know what policy they had to change in order to air that video.
No black people. That was the policy.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but I need to look that up at some point.
We've discussed the history of MTV, and they did not play any black artists until really Michael Jackson forced them with his, I forget which song he did, but it's like a huge hit, and they finally had to put a black artist. If you remember, there's a video floating around that people constantly bring up every now and then where David Bowie confronts a DJ on MTV.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, you guys don't seem to play the black artists. And they said, well, this is what the kids want. And he said, well, there are black kids,
Good point, David. Really good fucking point. Way to weaponize your platform, dude. Awesome.
So, yes, the MTV's history, folks, you want to look it up. It's not great when it comes to race. Oh, boy.
But for the record, the Run DMC Aerosmith combination video for Walk This Way, fantastic.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite pieces of music of all time.
But it forced MTV to, oh, God, we got to put rap on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, back to the article. Run DMC represented hip-hop at the Live Aid concerts and launched one of the first national rap tours. It also managed 2 gold, 2 platinum albums, as well as a 3-time platinum breakthrough album, Raising Hell. So that's the background of Run DMC. That's the background of some rap. Now, George, tell us about Brown Sugar.
Okay. It's just white sugar with some molasses in it. Oh, the film.
Yes.
This was written and directed by Rick Famuyiwa,
whose work I've seen in Dope and The Wood.
And this was written by Michael Elliott. Bear in mind, this is 2 men who wrote this movie. It will be apparent that men wrote this movie at some point. Blurbs. IMDb says, friends since childhood, a magazine editor and a hip-hop record executive stumble into romantic territory. All right.
Sure, why not?
Stars. Romance ensues when a journalist falls in love with her best friend, an executive for a hip-hop record label. But what will his fiancé think? And that blurb is what made me realize this was one of those movies that polyamory would make obsolete.
Yeah. There are so many things that could be resolved by everyone just talking to each other.
Yep.
Including the fact, we're friends and I'm kind of interested in you. Maybe you're interested in me. We could just go out a little bit. It doesn't have to be a big romance. We don't have to actually get married. Mm-hmm. It could have just been a casual thing. But no, let's wait until you get married and then I decide I have to be with you. But anyway, we'll get into it.
We'll get there. So, the credits pop in graffiti style over video of and from within MTA above-ground subway lines. We also see our protagonist, Sid, as she packs up her office at the LA Times, where she wrote reviews of and interviewed hip-hop artists. Sydney Sid Shaw is played by Sanaa Lathan,
whom I've seen in Contagion and Life.
And I've seen in Blade and Alien vs. Predator.
We're going to be doing credits, but it's going to be a bunch of people we're going to talk about where I've only seen these movies and you've already seen those movies. And there's no cross. I think there's only one person who crosses over.
I've started every interview I've ever given the same way for over 10 years. So, when'd you fall in love with hip-hop?
We see a bunch of rappers answering that question. Some, like Common and Method Man, even I could recognize. When the title card told me who they were. Sid takes us back to July 18th, 1984, when I was 3 years old, to give us her origin story.
The day I saw Slick Rick, who went by Ricky D back then, Dana Dane, and Dougie Fresh battle in the Bronx was the day I truly met hip-hop.
We see a younger version of her witness that rap battle after a younger version of her best friend helps her up onto a picnic table. She describes her own identification with hip-hop and says that as she grew up, hip-hop grew with her.
I wasn't raised in the Bronx, but I did grow up in New York City, in Brooklyn mainly, and then Manhattan. I don't recall running over, oh my God, there's a rap battle, let's go watch. I don't recall doing this. Now, granted, I'm not really into music, but I don't recall anybody else doing it either. I never saw this. Who was doing all this? Like, oh, look, there's a rap battle. Let's run all over and watch. Maybe if they were all friends, sure, but I don't think strangers are watching this. People can correct me if I don't know. I remember 1984 New York. I don't remember this.
Fair. Her LA Times crew throws her a going away and congratulations party as she's leaving to become editor-in-chief of XXL Magazine, a magazine all about hip-hop. She'll be writing a book via voiceover throughout the movie and resists coworker calls to join the frivolity so that she can work on it. Her now all-grown-up bestie Dre calls to leverage their friendship into her giving him a heads up about a review of one of his A&R company's clients. Their friendship here, and nowhere else, has a kind of humiliation kink to it, as she makes him grovel for that info. Andre Romulus Dre Ellis, whose parents must have hated him.
Or really like Star Trek.
Is played by Taye Diggs,
whom I've seen in The Best Man, The Wood, Go, and How Stella Got Her Groove Back, a film we are going to watch at some point on this podcast.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen in Chicago and Rent.
He's either one of these songs, the 1,120 minutes or whatever the hell that lyric is. I vaguely know. That's the only song I know from Rent.
Everybody in the cast sang that song.
Okay. Oh, it was a cast song. Right.
Yeah, it was an ensemble song. There were a couple solos in it. The solo that I sang the other night, the part that I sang, where it's, and the bridges he burned, that's about Taye Diggs' character. That line is referencing Taye Diggs' character in that music.
Oh, all right. Do you know if he was in the original production or are you just in the movie?
I think all but two of the original Broadway cast members were in the movie.
Okay.
One of them wasn't because they died. So, but I don't think that was Taye Diggs because he was still alive. I think he was Benny in both.
Okay.
That night at a Def Jam party, Sid is joined by her bawdy cousin Francine. Dre and Sid hug for a second, and Dre orders Sid her go-to drink, the Perfect 10, which I went to look for a recipe for and found like 15 different ways that people make that, which doesn't make it perfect in any way, I don't think. If anybody needs to know, Dre's drink is a Kettle One martini with a twist of lemon. Dre tells her that he's found his soulmate, that it's serious, and that she's not like the others.
I'm retiring the Slow Jam Deluxe Get the Draws tape.
The Slow Jams Deluxe Get the Draws tape?
Yeah, the one with Luther, Sade, and the extended mix of Princess Adore, so...
Damn, it's like that?
I'm for real.
Joe, If this mixtape is this legendary inside knowledge between these two lifelong best friends, why would he need to verbally list the artist and tracks on it?
There are so many questions about what sort of friendship these long, long ago friends have, considering she has not met the person he wants to marry, his soulmate.
She just moved back. She was living in LA. He was living in New York City.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, fine. He should maybe not literally meet her, but talk to her.
When they meet, they say they've heard so much about each other from that guy. Like, they just hadn't had a chance to talk because they've only been together for a couple of months.
Yeah, and it's a surprise to her, which again, if they're such good friends...
No, it's not a surprise to her that they're together.
He wants to get married.
It's a surprise to her that he wants to marry her.
Yeah. Which would be something they would have discussed, you would think, right? My best friend...
Apparently not.
My best friend in the world...
Maybe they would have, but he didn't.
Just doesn't make any sense.
Dre is giving that mixtape up for Reese, who joins them. Sid and Reese have heard so much about each other. Before long, Dre pulls Reese to an uncrowded but clearly visible to Sid spot, drops to a knee and pops the question. She says yes.
What a bizarre place to do a proposal.
What, a Def Jam party, Joe? You wouldn't do that?
At any party. Okay.
I know, Joe. You don't have to explain this. It's fine. I get it.
No, I'm just saying. Well, I've never asked anyone to marry me, obviously. You have.
Well, that's your problem.
Yes. But I would imagine that...
Date one, Joe. Date one. As soon as you meet them, drop to a knee with a big-ass ring. Be like Cinderella. If the ring fits, you got to marry me.
Because doesn't that it puts a weird pressure on this person to say yes, even if they might not want to? Whereas if you do it...
Yes, Joe. That's why you don't propose in front of loads of people.
That's where I was going with that.
Yep.
When you proposed, where were you?
I was in the lanai at her parents' place. And it was just me and her.
Oh, you guys just like sitting out there or something? Or
yeah.
Had you already planned it? Was it spontaneous? You didn't even think you were going to ask?
I was down there on leave after A school. And I didn't have a ring yet. I wanted to get a yes before I got a ring. It was kind of a foregone conclusion.
Okay.
Francine is played by Queen Latifah,
whom I've seen in Set It Off, Jungle Fever. I also watched her on Living Single, and she is currently the Equalizer on TV. Denzel Washington is the Equalizer in the movies, which I didn't know you could do. I didn't know you could have... Now, it's not the same character per se, but they have the same name. He gets the movie, she gets the TV. It's probably happened before, but I'm unfamiliar of seeing this happening.
And we've both seen her in Chicago.
Yes.
Reese Marie Wiggum Ellis, so her parents were a fan of The Simpsons, is played by Nicole Ari Parker,
whom I've seen in Boogie Nights,
which I had to look and make sure we didn't see for the show yet. I was like, did we see that? I think I was getting it in my head confused with Saturday Night Fever.
Oh, okay.
The next day, with no apparent hangover, we see Sid unpacking her stuff with Francine's assistance. Francine is scripted to give Sid shit about a neck massager that can be used as a vibrator existing in her belongings. And Sid is scripted to be embarrassed by this. This is where I double checked. Oh yes, men wrote this fucking movie. Because no woman is going to give another woman shit for owning a vibrator, even if it's a vibrator.
Well, these are the type of women who would, I guess. That's the type of women these are.
The fictional kind. Yeah. We learned that back in college, Dre, a legendary slut, was romantically rejected by Sid, his best friend. Francine offers to pick up an engagement gift for Sid to bring for Reese's shower. In a bridal shower trivia game, Sid proves to know Dre jealously inducingly better than Reese does, on account of having known him most of their lives. Reese opens Sid's gift, and it's a leather thong with a zipper, because Francine is an asshole. Reese yes-ands that.
Now, if these are real people, Reese would have invited Sid out after that little incident, because this is her husband, going to be future husband's best friend. Clearly, this girl knows a lot more about this man she's about to marry. So she would invite...
This is a person that you get in close with so that you can get all the dirt on your husband and find out where all the tripwires are. Yes.
That's not quite the way I would put it, but yes.
But yeah,
if this were real, that's exactly what happened next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sid should have become a resource.
Yeah.
Even in monogamy, she should have become a resource to
absolutely.
Reese.
And again, you would want to know the friends of the person you're marrying, because this person means a lot to them. So you want to get to know them because it means something to them. Mm-hmm. Even I know that, and I've never been married.
That's why I keep introducing my partners to you, Joe.
I thought you did that just to make me jealous. Look at a new girlie I got now.
That's just a side benefit. Sid and Dre meet in Central Park and get some dirty water dogs. She expresses embarrassment to him about the gift. He laments that he doesn't get to eat like a human since he's been with Reese. At an expensive stuff store, they get mistaken for a couple. Dre asks Sid to help him sign a hot new MC at an open mic that evening. Not held it under St. Mark's.
Not held it under St. Mark's. That whole thing, again, this is fiction, so they're embarrassed. Whereas in real life, I've been mistaken for a couple of people I wasn't a couple with. You just laugh it off. You go like, oh, yes, thank you. Yes, is that right, honey? Have you never done that?
Me and my friend Kelly used to get mistaken for a couple.
Yeah, it's never awkward.
Depending on how funny it would be, sometimes we yes-anded it and snuggled a little bit just to play along. So true story. On my first really long belated date with Kit, where I flew to Florida for 2 weeks, we had to get 2 Airbnbs. We got one Airbnb for one night, but it was only available for the one night before the other one that she really wanted would have become available. So we had to swap. But for that first one, we were a little worried because we're an unmarried young couple and some people can get judgy. So we stopped at a pawn shop on day one of us being together, like full day of us being together. Like we'd been together the night before, but woke up, went out, stopped at a pawn. We stopped at a hotel first night, Airbnb second night, different Airbnb third night. But so it's second day. We go to a pawn shop and they're like, we need something that looks like an engagement ring for $100. I bought Kit a $100 diamond ring on our first full day together.
Why were you that paranoid?
Look, that's just an excuse for me to buy a ring for a woman I'm madly in love with.
But you're telling me the reason you bought it is because you were worried about.
Well, that was the divot in the Mentos for the Diet Coke to percolate on.
Okay.
Anyway, we see the new hotness up on stage. Chris Cav Anton Vishon rocking the mic. Later, Dre approaches him about signing on with his label, but Chris is skeptical, seeing that company is, a bunch of sellouts. As if to underscore that, the pair are approached by a pair of talentless hacks in Dalmatian fur coats like a pair of Disney villains. These two are Ren and Ten and act with a gimmick of having one black and one white member. The difference between this podcast and them is that we have talent.
Well, that's subjective.
Yeah. We have staying power, at least.
It's true.
This is episode 201. These two were just signed by Dre's label, to Dre's consternation. Chris Cav Anton Vishon is played by Yasin Bey, who we've both seen in Bamboozled, and I've seen in Monsters Ball and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In my notes, he was Ford Prefect, no matter what he was doing. By the way, Yasin Bey, for those who don't know, is Mos Def.
Yes, he changed his name.
Ren is played by Eric Weiner. Nope, sorry. Ren is played by Eric Weiner. And Ten is played by Reg Wyans, who I've seen in Serendipity, a John Cusack movie making an appearance in here for some fucking reason.
The whole thing with this film is like, oh, he wants to make real music. And look, I'm not knocking what Mos Def or any of the other artists they feature in this thing, but no one really says anything particularly controversial that I can tell in this movie, do they? I mean, there's no like fuck the police. There's no.
No, everybody can agree in this movie agrees that all cops are bastards. It's let's go back to the first hoe. The whole when you're overly reliant on the bitches and hoes verbiage, there's a quality problem with the Dalmatians.
Who, by the way, apparently are popular. They do get to be on Hot 97, so they may be hacks, but Dre's boss isn't wrong. They do sell.
Yep. The boss at Dre's label, Simon, doesn't care about the whole soul of hip-hop selling out issue. He sees Ren and Ten as the new hotness who will generate cash flow for his company and expects Dre to toe the line.
Simon is played by Wendell Pierce, whom we've seen in Malcolm X, Hackers, Wait and Exhale, Get on the Bus. And I've seen in Selma, Horrible Bosses, Bullworth, It Could Happen to You, Manhattan Murder Mystery, and A Rage in Harlem. Apparently, I'm a huge Wendell Pierce fan. I didn't realize.
Apparently. Dre runs home to Sid? Yes, Sid. He doesn't go to his fiancée with this ethical dilemma. First off, Sid's known him longer. Second, Sid is in the hip-hop world. Third, Reese is a lawyer, so we can't trust her ethical compass anyway. His best friend helps him realize that he's part of the problem of hip-hop losing its credibility. They have a moment, and kiss, and almost start tearing each other's clothes off. Dre decides that would be a bad idea, what with him marrying Reese tomorrow, so he bails. I had to make up my own scene titles for this. My scene title for this is Problems Polly Can Solve. And I won't belabor this point, but this is a movie where if the characters understood relationship ethics and consensual non-monogamy, no problem would actually exist other than the professional one. In fact, a number of problems in this film, as it goes on, would be solved or nullified by a non-monogamous ethical framework.
Or at the very least, communication.
Just talking to each other.
And also just doesn't make any sense. So this man would wait until he is about to get married to decide, oh, now we're hot for...
Well, no, he was hot for her in college, and she turned him down.
Well, okay, she should not have responded then if she didn't before. Why suddenly now when he's about to get married? This is stuff that... one reason, if I were like in this relationship and I was dating a woman and her best friend was this dude, and I would assume that if they wanted to do anything, they would have already have done it before I ever came on the scene. I wouldn't think, oh, I have to be here now. Suddenly you guys are tearing each other's clothes off? It wouldn't make any sense.
I don't know. I wouldn't assume anything of the sort.
Really?
I would assume that when people get the hots for each other, they get the hots for each other. Sometimes it's a slow burn.
Yeah, but if you've been together that long, why would my son come on this?
Again, they weren't. They were in college, she rejected him, and then they moved across the country from each other.
Then they get back together, right? And then suddenly they're besties, friends all over. And they must have talked on the phone as well.
They talked on the phone, but it's different once you're in person with somebody. She moves back as he's getting engaged to somebody else.
Right.
So now they're in physical proximity and all grown up and professional and shit. Like, they might be hotter to each other now and not have realized that before. And now that they have this moment, it's like, oh, holy shit, now we're hot for each other.
It feels very sitcom-y to me.
Well, that's because it's a movie and it had a script written by two men, Joe. Moving on. At the wedding, Dre and Sid share a look. Francine notices and will not shut up about it, loudly, during the ceremony, making it super awkward for everyone, including the audience of the movie, and that means me. I was uncomfortable.
Yeah, she's like really obnoxious. And that whole line, like, oh, he's about to marry your man. He's nobody's man.
People don't belong to people, lady. Jesus. 14th Amendment. Come on.
And what did she really expect them to end? That's just break up their them about to get married
without having a deaf brother to do the translating.
How many rom-coms have a wedding scene where nonsense like this happens? I've been to how many weddings, and I've never seen anything like this. Not once.
Me neither, Joe. Me neither. Although I am tempted at your wedding to cause these shenanigans just so that you get to see it once. We get a montage. Like, you stopped laughing after I finished the joke. That was sad.
I didn't know there was a joke. I'm sorry.
You think I would actually do that at your wedding?
Oh, no. I didn't know there was a joke I was supposed to laugh at. I mean, I knew you're kidding.
What else do you do to jokes, Joe?
I don't know.
We get a montage of dinners, parties, gym visits, and the morning routine of Dre and Reese in their enormous, humongous kitchen for just the two of them in their New York City apartment.
Someone's bringing in the money.
Mm-hmm. It's the lawyer.
Hip-hop was always this personal, regional thing that belonged to just me. Starting with Fab Five Freddy and Yo MTV Raps, anyone with a television set and cable box could get a piece of hip-hop.
Anybody with a television set and a cable box? Isn't that pretty classist of hip-hop?
I think it is, actually. Well, she's an upper-class person herself, so she doesn't even think about what she's saying.
Yeah.
They're all rich. They're all bougie.
Yeah, it's kind of... There's a little bit of a disconnect there, because they weren't when they were rap battling in the Bronx. Like that, you did that outside in the park because you didn't have a freaking studio to do it in.
Yeah, but when she saw those guys rapping, we don't know what her economic background was, or Dre's. They could have both come from very well-off families.
Maybe, but the thing is, they were doing that out in the street because it wasn't supposed to be something that you needed a TV and cable. You needed to have cable to access it. Fuck you. That is such classist bullshit. Through his agent, basketballer Kelby Dawson specifically asks to be interviewed by Sid. Because she's hot. Francine advises her to dangle more, get her hair did, etc.
Wouldn't this be some sort of conflict? I know reporters have interviewed people. Kevin Smith even married a woman who was interviewed him, so I guess it's not unethical.
While she was interviewing him, they were just like, get the priest, stop him, and get him to come over here and marry us.
But I don't know. Whatever. Go ahead.
In addition to being a pro basketball player, Kelby is a rapper, which is why Sid is interviewing him. They meet at a restaurant. Sid and Reese show up, followed by Ren and Ten, who are quite the annoying spectacle. When they leave, Sid finally gets to start the interview. Kelby Dawson is played by Boris Kodjoe.
I don't know if you get into this later, but if anyone would have been happy about maybe opening up the relationship, which you're right, it's not discussed by anybody. It's not even a possibility. It's like that concept does not exist anywhere in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
But if anyone will be happy about having an open relationship, you would think it would be Kelby. If only because he's constantly on the road. He's like, great, I can have relationships while I'm on the road.
Nah, I give this one squarely to Reese. Next, we see Dre and Simon in the producer booth in the studio with Ren and Ten recording some just absolute garbage. Dre points out that this is like if the worst parts of hip-hop all came together into one unholy pair of posers. Simon doesn't care and only sees dollar signs. So, Dre ups and quits just like that.
Why would the head boss be there?
Good question, Joe.
Why's he even in the studio? He'd be doing his job, and it's Dre's job to oversee that.
Head bossing, yeah. Dre hails a cab, and the driver happens to be Chris, the MC what turned him down earlier.
Because New York is very, very small.
Yes, it's 4 square blocks, just like LA. They have a talk about his quitting, and Chris makes fun of him, so Dre gets out and walks to Sid's place.
Because, of course, everything goes back to goddamn Sid. You know what? I would be pissed, too. Like, what the fuck?
He finds Sid handing the delivery of a metric ton of roses from Kelby. Then they go to the park, and he tells her that he quit his job and is starting his own paper company. They reminisce, and she gives him startup funds. For their second date, Kelby rents out an entire restaurant and may or may not have cooked their meal himself.
I get the impression he probably did.
I do too, but it's left as an open question.
Yeah. Overkill, don't you think? I would find it...
I showed up in a fucking suit to take a date to the movies. I don't know what's overkill, Joe. I don't know what that word means. If I had the money, I would overkill everything.
The suit to a date, especially when the date wants you to wear a suit. When did you wear that, right?
Not on that night, necessarily.
Oh, regardless. It just, I don't know. I guess maybe a woman would be impressed by that. It just seems a bit much.
Well, it does work.
It does work, yeah.
I want to say that much. In this movie written by men. Meanwhile, Dre tells Reese that he quit his job, and she makes good points about how to make decisions as a cohabitating couple.
Yeah, it's hard to not agree with her. Like, I am your wife now.
Yeah, career changes, you kind of run that by me first, especially when income just gets, that halves our income.
Yeah.
Sid and Kelby go for a waterside walk where he makes his intentions towards her clear. They go back to her place where Sid takes a quick jealous call from Dre, then makes some coffee.
That's good coffee. That's really good.
Yeah, I got it from Balducci's.
It's a great aroma.
Let's have sex now.
Let's.
Boy, I wish my dates went that way.
Funniest goddamn scene in the movie. And for some reason, those moments in movies are fucking hilarious. I remember the one in, what was the Jackie Brown, where Bridget Fonda...
Oh, right, yeah.
You want to fuck?
You want to fuck? Yeah.
Dre seeks and finds Chris at the cab depot. Chris says he'll consider signing on to Dre's new label if Dre cleans the cum, blood, and disappointment from the backseat of his cab.
That's maybe Chris is great. We see his rap, and I thought it was whatever. But honestly, You just quit your job and you just signed in this one dude. You're taking quite a risk there. That's a lot of pressure to put on one act.
You gotta start somewhere.
I guess.
Record label ain't much without something to put onto a record.
Yeah, but he's just signed the one dude.
And it hasn't even signed him yet.
It hasn't even signed him yet. By the way, if I come down and offer you a record label, now granted, I'm not working, I have no backing, so maybe it's not as impressive.
Yeah, I would just say, bullshit, dude. What the fuck are you doing? You work for a CIA front company.
I would go like, hey, I'm not cleaning the back of your cab. Sorry, I'm offering you to do this, and if you don't want to take my offer, fine. But I don't have to prove anything to you. You know I'm in the business. You know I have connections. You know I can do something for you. That's it. I'm not cleaning out the back of your cab. I'm sorry. No.
Sid and Reese happened to be at the only gym in New York City at the same time.
Because like I was the only cab. This is the only gym.
Yep.
New York is very, very small.
Very. Sid spots Reese flirting with a dude. Then Reese comes over to her and they have an argument about who owns Dre during a kickboxing class.
That whole business about like, well, I don't know if you get into it later, but Steve says, oh, she was talking to another man. So? That's evidence that something's wrong. He was talking.
It does. Well, that doesn't get brought up anywhere. That she was talking to him.
I thought she did say that. I thought she said we were at the gym and I saw her chatting with the...
Oh, maybe she does, but nothing comes of that. We'll get to what comes of something.
Oh, I know. I'm simply...
Because the thing is...
It's not evidence of anything.
Well, but there is something for there to be evidence of. Presumably. Which I'll mention something about that too, I promise. We get another short montage to show Sid and Kelby dating, Dre and Chris making music, and Dre and Reese growing apart, visualized by their morning routine looking like a less than finely tuned machine. There's a big old party at Sid's. The cast, minus Simon, Ren, and Ten, are celebrating Chris and Dre's accomplishments with the new label. Kelby takes a moment to propose to Sid in front of everyone like an asshole.
Another group of proposal. Who keeps doing this?
These men in this movie scripted by men. Sid and Dre argue and then make up. Kelby and Reese jealously look at their partner's relationship. And Chris starts crushing on Francine.
We know that they're best friends, so do we make any effort? At no point does Kelby take Dre out to like, hey, let's go out to dinner, let's hang out a little bit, let me get to know you, best friend to this woman I'm about to marry.
So my scene title for this is Sid's a sniper. Snipe.
Very proud of that. Let's hear what
Snipe. It is. Who brought the sniper, bud?
Oh, that type of snipe. Okay.
Yeah. Sid comes to watch Kelby practice, like she's in fucking Letterkenny, to get away from writing for a minute. Which, okay, I get that. He sits to talk with her, and she finds out that he isn't helping plan the wedding, nor has he ever read any of her articles. Asshole.
Can't quite be true, because otherwise, how would he know who she is?
I mean, sometimes there are pictures.
Right. But I mean, so I don't know. All right, so there's this article, and he didn't read. He just happened to flip through it and go, "Oh,
He didn't even read the article that he was interviewed in.
I don't think there would be a picture of this is a column, but she's not a columnist. I don't know how he knows what...
I mean, she's the editor-in-chief of the magazine. Sometimes there's a picture of that.
Okay. Although she also writes articles, which is weird. She's the editor-in-chief. She should be editing the articles.
Well, that's why it was weird to her, because he specifically requested...
As for her, yes.
Yeah. Throughout the movie, Dre and Reese have had this peculiar habit of taking each other's phones by accident, making me wonder how either of their professional lives actually worked.
That's actually a good question. How good are you at your job? You keep mixing up your goddamn phone, for freaking sake.
On one such a day, during a nighttime recording session, Dre checks the phone in his pocket to see a text from the guy Reese was flirting with at the gym, confirming dinner plans. He has Chris cab him and Sid to that restaurant and catches Reese and the gym rat in cozy but otherwise mildly intimate proximity in a booth. Dre makes a scene against protestations from Sid, ending with a declaration of intent to divorce before Sid pulls him out of there by his ear.
So much wrong there. So much as far as I'm concerned. You can tell me if you disagree.
Okay.
Number one, I know there's problems in my marriage. All right. I know my wife is upset with me. I get this thing like, oh, here's this other guy. Rather than going down there and going like, honey, maybe we should talk. I don't mind confronting him at the restaurant. I wouldn't have done it that way. Bring Sid with him for some goddamn reason. Why is she there?
Good question, Joe.
Why bring her along? What was the point of that?
Man likes an audience.
Then he gets all pissy and makes an ass of himself in that restaurant. These two, there's no indication of what's going on there. It's just a mild...
They were sitting close to each other.
Yeah, the idea that the first thing that pops into his head is divorce tells me he wanted out of that marriage. He's just using that as an excuse.
So far, Joe, I'm with you.
Were you ever into this marriage? Were you ever invested into it at all? Because it doesn't look like it. You have problems, you have an issue, you go running off to your best friend, not your wife. Then as soon as you see her with another man, and that's all that you saw.
In a restaurant.
In a restaurant, in a public place, they're not kissing.
Didn't even say hand check.
His arm is slightly around her. Not even holding it, just like it's on the chair.
On the bench or the backrest.
On the chair, yeah.
Yeah.
And her back is there as well. So, okay. And that's it. To go straight from that to, I'm just...
So to sum it up, he overreacted a tad.
He acted exactly as you would expect in a rom-com and nowhere else. I can't imagine for the vast majority of people in a marriage would just let it crumble that quickly.
Mm-hmm. You said enough, Joe. I don't have to add anything to that. Good on you. Sid drags Dre back to her place, where he proves to be her best friend and biggest fan. Like, he's read all of her articles. All of them. Stalker. One thing leads to another, and they end up in the sack together. Afterwards, Sid has profound second thoughts and guilt. She tells Dre she needs space, and has to go meet Kelby after his game. Sniper! Another montage shows us Sid with Kelby, him being unaware that she cheated on him. We also see Dre getting a hotel room and a time-lapse New York City skyline day and night, with the Twin Towers light beams firmly placing this film between 2002 and 2013. Dre and Chris wait all day in the waiting room of radio station Hot 97. They kill some time with a no-homo comedy beat.
Yeah, that kind of annoyed me. I don't know how well you know Casablanca, but that whole... First of all, I don't know if those characters would really be in the Casablanca. That sounds like something screenwriters would do. They would have seen Casablanca. I don't know these characters or whatever. But okay. And then he gets like, this whole, homophobic, basically, conversation. At the end of it, rather than running off that fine, he goes off with his friend into the fog, with another man into the fog. Yeah, they're going to fight a war. There's nothing sexual in there. It says more about the characters projecting that onto these two than it does about me. I guess because I really like Casablanca, it's like, that just annoyed me. Like, what are you talking? And no one says to him, they're going off to possibly die.
Like, look, I've never seen Casablanca, but I am very aware of Louis. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Right.
Those are the words in that. Like, how the fuck do you go from that to homo? Whatever, fuck these guys.
Because it's 2002, and this is written by men.
Yep. When Dre is finally called into the office, he has trouble working the CD player and is treated dismissively by the radio executive. He's given no guarantees of airplay.
I mean, I know he has the backing did have the backing of a major label, so they probably Hot 97 would know him from that, but he seems to be able to get in and out of that building awfully easily.
That track ends up on Sid's desk at work, and she goes to see Dre for the first time since they screwed to tell him that she couldn't do the review as being an investor in his label would create a conflict of interest. She's correct. She gave it to one of her reviewers who gave it a mediocre review. She refuses to listen to it herself and leaves.
She should have got into a time machine, gone and visited Clarence Thompson, asked his advice, and he said, it's fine. There are no conflicts of interest. My wife is out doing all sorts of shit, and I don't give a damn. You can... It's fine.
Okay, Joe.
Sorry.
It's not incorrect, but...
I'll just needlessly throw politics into this movie.
As if hip-hop is not inherently political.
Not in this film, it's not.
I mean, that's part of the problem with this film. If it's going to be about hip-hop, some of the struggle that hip-hop represents should have been present in the movie. I don't know if this white guy's take on that matters, but...
A lot of people noticed that, and not just you,
okay.
George.
All right. Dre is called to a pool hall by Reese so that they can decide if they want to work things out. He doesn't want to, so they just have some fun together for the night, playing pool and reminiscing about their very, very short relationship's high points. Sid misses a theater time with Kelby because of her visit with Dre. Kelby is big mad about it. This becomes a breakup, and somehow has nothing to do with him not reading her articles.
Another breakup that doesn't really make any sense. Again, could have been fixed by people just talking to each other.
Yeah, but she'd have to admit having cheated on him.
That's true.
Like, one thing the movie got right there, even if they did it by accident, is that secrecy erodes intimacy. So by holding that secret, they had to necessarily grow apart.
I guess.
On her way to make up with Dre, Sid sees Dre and Reese laughing and kissing after Dre walked Reese to the curb and doesn't stick around to see them part ways. Sid voiceovers her continued work on the book and weaves it around the turmoil in her personal life. Determined. I was proud of that one. Dre finds some moxie and bullies Hot 97 into playing Chris's track, threatening to come back every week if they don't.
Which would lead to, like, well, we're just going to escort you out. This is not how that works. I don't think you can bully your way onto a major radio station, or even a minor one. I don't even think you can pull that on college radio.
Just put your face up at the front security desk. Say, don't let this asshole in. Call the cops.
Yes.
While Dre and Chris wait to hear the track on the radio, the DJ announces that they're about to interview Sid about her new book. After a requisite amount of uncertainty, Dre and Chris rush to the studio. On the way, Dre calls in and stays on the line all the way until he's in the studio and holds up a middle schoolish yes, no, maybe paper sign for Sid, who says yes. They kiss and Chris's track plays. In the hallway, Chris and Francine start their own relationship. The end.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot more there, but yeah, we'll leave it at that. Whole thing. I know very little about the music business, but I'm willing to bet it works nothing like this. You play this album. Oh, yes, let's play it in this one track, and they play on Hot 97, and then what? What if people don't like it? All right, George, does this film still work?
Yeah, it's a rom-com. It's exactly what it's billed to be. It's a rom-com in a monogamous culture from 2002. It's exactly that, but blacker than usual.
Oh, blackish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's it works for what it is. I mean, it's inoffensive enough. It doesn't.
It does. It steps on it steps on my toes because I'm a relationship nerd. But broader culture-wise, it steps on nobody's. It is a super safe movie, which is kind of a shame. Because it could have been something more. It could have had something stronger to it, but they chose not to for the sake of broader appeal. But I gotta say, it's rare that I go to IMDb and there is not a plot synopsis for the movie. This is a movie that doesn't have a plot synopsis on IMDb because nobody cares about it enough to sit there and write a plot synopsis.
So did you?
I wrote a summary for our podcast.
Oh, because you've done that, right?
I have. I didn't care enough to retool it to go into IMDb.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I can see people watching on a Saturday while they're doing laundry or putting clothes
How did
away.
you know what I was doing today?
Were you doing laundry today?
All day.
Is that a joke?
All day I was doing laundry. Yeah.
When you first told me that you'd seen the movie, because I'd never seen this before, and we were talking, hanging out, and you mentioned that you finally saw it, but you hadn't started on the summer yet. But you said, wow, this would be probably worked by a polyamory. It would have been, I think, a much better movie if that conversation at least existed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rom-com, so I don't think rom-coms are allowed to have polyamory.
Which I don't understand why, because if you want romantic comedy, you have way more opportunities for romantic comedy if you have more relationships in the movie.
I think it's because we are in a very conservative culture.
Oh, no, yeah, we're in a monogamous by default culture, but that's changing slowly.
Yeah, I don't, it's very slow.
Like, more people are aware of poly, I think, and part of the way that you get that awareness out there is representation, and far be it from me to, like, claim victimhood or underrepresentation in anything, but I think for the sake of relationships in this country, we should be trying to normalize consensual non-monogamy more.
I think when they do non-monogamy movies, like when they try and, it usually, I'm trying to think of a couple of examples. I can't think of the name of it, but they usually seem to stress the whole sex part.
Right.
Not the whole relationship part.
And I think that that's a disservice.
Oh, 100, I have no doubt that it is. I'm just saying, when they do handle it, it's usually just like, oh, you're going to get laid more, and that's about it. But yeah, overall, I think the movie works for what it is. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I do hate rom-coms, but that's not this film's fault. That's the whole genre. And I posted that, and I noticed that both you and 2 other guys like that, and not one woman did. So I don't know. Which made me feel uncomfortable. Like, oh God, am I just a shitty dude? But man, rom-coms are bad. They really are. Mm-hmm. Not only are the relationships extremely toxic, but the solutions are so easy in half of these pictures, and it's never taken care of. Like, all you have to do is just talk to them for 5 years. Have a conversation. Nope. Let's just get divorced. Oh, I'm leaving you. Oh, we're about to get married. Oh, no, my friend stands up, decides they love me. Oh, well, I'm going to run off to this person. Rather than go like, well, I'm at my wedding now. I've already made the determination. It's so stupid. So awful. Anyway, George, what's up next?
Our next episode is a Patron's Choice episode, and we will be talking based on the one vote that was received for any of the 3 options about Gleaming the Cube from 1989. I am super excited to make Joe watch this movie.
I'm not super excited to see it. Ladies and gentlemen, please become members and vote on the movies. Only one person voted for this. Were the selections that bad? Blame George.
I picked all 3 of these things. They're all freaking like 1980s sports movies, alternative sports movies, BMX and skateboarding.
And which one did they pick? Is that a BMX or a skateboard?
This is a skateboard movie. But it's not about it. The other 2 were like skateboarding and BMX. Like, there's a competition involved. Mm-hmm. This one, there's a fucking like terrorism plot, but skateboards are a key player to it. It's to fighting it. It's different.
Oh, this is hackers all over again.
No, it's not hackers.
Okay.
I can promise you it's not hackers. It is way lower budget than hackers. It doesn't need, and it doesn't have to be high budget. Like, because you don't need a big budget to do fucking skateboard shit.
You do not. Although, you're telling me there's a terrorist plot to it, which sounds like there was some sort of like government thing to hackers. That's why I'm thinking is it like hackers. But all right, we'll see. You will watch the movie and we'll talk about it next week.
We sure will. That's this whole premise of this podcast.
That is the whole premise of this goddamn podcast. So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romacka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's no one around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, congratulations, man. That's a big move. Good luck to you, man.
Look, I've been meaning to talk to you about my album, man.
Your album?
It's so hard to get respect as an MC when your ball plays.
Right. Rappers who play sports. Yeah. Yes, same thing.
But I was thinking you could be my mentor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you could help me with my lyrics. You could work it out so my lyrics get tighter.
Tight lyrics, right? Like a rap coach.
Like a rap coach.
Right.
Like exactly.
New
like
Year's
that.
Eve, Kelby D in the venue. Top the ring. Got marriage on my menu.
Right.
Marriage on my menu,
that's
man.
Tight. It's not just basketball with you.
Yo.
That fucking mustache is great. I love him so much.
Okay.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romacka. The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
Speaking of white people stealing black people's stuff, do you recognize your brother's sweater?
Oh, is that where that came from?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, technically, it's the sweater we found. We don't know where he
got it.
It's been my experience that news reporters get very upset when politicians get blowjobs or have email management issues, but they do not seem to be as upset about them dying in Israel or when Donald Trump threatens to kill them. Why is that?
So, Joe, how about that fucking concert, huh?
What was the most challenging time in your life?
So, Joe, read anything any further into The Ethical Slut? Find anything good?
Why do these 3 professions get so much attention?